All right, guys. You guys ready to get through the tough part of the show?
Yeah.
We're here for you,
All
bud.
right. Well, before I start this, I'm just going to preface it really quick. Uh, this is a very heartfelt fuck that motherfucker, and I apologize if I get weird and emotional, because that's what's probably going to happen with this one.
Take warning. The following segment is a personal view and opinion that may offend some. This is an independent opinion and should be taken as such. Put away your tissues and closed minds. It's time to hear the fucker out.
I don't script things. I think everybody knows that. I like to play everything off the cuff when we do this show. It to me, I think it's a little bit more entertaining when I can just be myself. But I decided to write something a little bit different. So I'll just read it off. September 12th, 2018. This is the day that ALS, a neurodegenerative disease also known as Lou Gehrig's, took my Uncle Benny. Um, we're recording this on the same weekend 2 years later, and I'm reflecting back on how much bullshit it is that this disease even exists. I was like most people. I didn't really know much about ALS or Lou Gehrig's, other than the baseball player, and that in 2014, a bunch of people were dumping buckets of ice and water all over their heads in support of further research. What most people didn't know that were doing it is that although it was very valiant and honorable to do that, putting yourself out there for those that suffer from this disease, that was how truly horrific and debilitating it is to watch somebody suffer, knowing that there is no cure, that there is no treatment, and there is no future. This disease attacks you slowly through your muscular system until every single muscle is numb and no longer works, including your lungs, your heart, your tongue. It takes every bit of you away. The only thing that this disease doesn't seem to touch is your brain and your eyes. It's almost as if this motherfucker has a mind of its own and wants you to watch and know exactly what is happening to you as you slowly wither away to nothing and suffer the entire time. I lost one of the most important people I will ever know. One of the most important human beings I will ever love. I watched him succumb to a motherfucking disease that barely has any tracers, nearly any way to know that you have it until you have it. And even then, you might be tested for everything else before coming to that diagnosis, losing precious time not knowing. When Benny was initially diagnosed, he didn't um, he didn't want his diagnosis communicated to anybody outside of his closest family and friends. While we always respected his decision, I don't think any of us ever truly understood why he would keep it a secret until he inevitably had no speech, no movement. He made this decision early on to suffer this disease alone, not to worry the world around him with his troubles, because that's who Benny was. He gave his whole self to anyone that met him, anyone that needed his intelligence, his humor, and his strength. He didn't linger on things he couldn't control, only helping others control what they thought they couldn't. He'd give you the shirt off his back, the appliances out of his own house to make sure you kept your kids fed. That's a true story. He literally gave me my first and most beloved car immediately after I passed my driver's test because he knew how much it meant to me that I could gain freedom at 16. He was at my basketball games when I was 10. He moved into Vegas to go to college, even without asking for it. He had an understanding of the world I only wish others would have. His only goal in life was to be a good human, to impart his good nature and knowledge on those he loved. Benny loved, without hesitation, his mother, his sisters, and every one of his nieces and nephews like they were his own children. I always felt like we were raised by committee, especially myself and my younger sister, Ashley. If my grandma was the committee chief, Benny was the ultimate consigliere. He was right there, or excuse me, he was right where he needed to be when we needed him most, and somehow always our biggest advocate and mentor. He was 52 years old. He was diagnosed when he was 59 or 49. Best shape of his life, active, and healthier than anyone else I can think of. He had created a family and successful career with LA County. He had found himself and what his role was to all of us. He was fucking happy. And then his elbow and his arm started going numb. That was it. That was his clue that within 7 months, his speech would be slurred beyond recognition and his hands and legs would start weakening to the point where he couldn't pinch a pen, pick up a potato chip. He spent 2 years declining and withering for nothing, for no motherfucking reason. Then he had a gene that went Ari. I have his last email, the last communication he would ever send to me, 2 weeks before he passed. His body was gone. He was starving to death at this point because he couldn't even swallow. But somehow he was upbeat in that email. He was excited to keep a conversation going about the upcoming Ram season. He was concerned about me, about my well-being. He knew this was straining my psyche, even without me ever saying a word about it. He wrote the last email with his eyes. It must have taken so long to complete, and it was only words of love and support. He didn't even mention how much pain he was in, how the hunger pangs were constantly with him when he couldn't sleep, when he didn't have the energy to even look up when people were talking to him. Miss you, Benny. Ask yourself, if you never get a chance to hear your loved ones tell you how proud they are of you, how much they love you, will you be okay? How would it feel if you knew the only reason you couldn't have that luxury is because of a supposedly rare and uncommon disease? I'll tell you how I feel. I feel like ALS can suck a fat one, and this world needs to give a shit about it because it's there. It can happen to any of us, and we aren't doing enough to fight this motherfucker off. Now is the only time we have, and we better slow it down and think. Have we let those around us know how much they mean to us? Give those people you love a call, a text, an email. Tell them you love them and don't leave this world regretting not being able to do these things. Because in the end, the only thing that matters is that we love each other and are loved in return. We're asking you now to stop and please take a moment to consider supporting a local or national research foundation for neurodegenerative diseases. Donate, give time, do something if you can, because one day it could be your family, your closest friend, your spouse. Don't have the same regret of not taking 10 minutes to dump some cold ass water on your head and send $20 to help find a fucking treatment or a cure. I love you, Benny. And to ALS, fuck you, motherfucker.